Hello, friends. Close your eyes and let your mind drift back through the centuries to a time when stone towers pierced the misty horizons of medieval Europe. It's the year 1200, and you awaken to the sound of a distant horn echoing across a rugged landscape, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and burning wood. Before you stands a mighty castle, its gray walls rising like silent sentinels against the threat of invaders. The wind carries the faint clatter of armor and the murmur of a river below, blending with the soft rustle of leaves in the autumn breeze. This is not a tale of grand battles or heroic charges, but a gentle exploration of how these stone fortresses defended their inhabitants, knights, lords, and villagers alike, through cunning design and unyielding resolve. As you listen, let the rhythmic flow of this story and the imagined crackle of a hearth fire lull you into a peaceful state, perfect for unwinding or drifting into sleep. Tonight, we'll walk through the castle's defenses, from its towering walls to its hidden traps, uncovering the ingenuity that turned stone into a shield against chaos. Imagine yourself as a visitor to this castle, perhaps a weary traveler granted refuge within its gates. The year is uncertain, the threat ever present, whether marauding bands, rival lords, or foreign armies seeking to claim the land. Medieval castles, dotting the countryside from England to the Holy Roman Empire, were more than homes for the nobility. They were fortresses designed to withstand sieges that could last months. In contrast to the open villages you might pass, vulnerable to sudden raids, these castles stood as bastions of safety, their very existence a deterrent to would-be attackers. This story will unfold as if you're exploring them firsthand, feeling the cold stone under your feet, hearing the creak of drawbridges, and sensing the tension of those who lived within. The medieval period, roughly spanning the 9th to 15th centuries, was a time of constant conflict. After the fall of the Roman Empire, Europe fragmented into feuding kingdoms, where power was maintained through land and loyalty. Castles emerged around the 9th century, evolving from simple wooden mate and bailey structures to the grand stone edifices of the High Middle Ages. Their purpose was clear: to protect the lord's family, his wealth, and his vassals from the unpredictability of war. Picture a landscape scarred by skirmishes, where smoke rises from burned villages, and the castle looms as a beacon of hope amid the turmoil. What made these castles so formidable? Their design was a masterpiece of medieval engineering, born from necessity rather than aesthetics. The earliest castles, like those built by the Normans after 1066, featured a raised mound with a wooden keep, surrounded by a ditch and palisade. Over time, stone replaced wood, and concentric rings of walls, towers, and moats became the norm. These weren't random constructions. They were strategic responses to the weapons and tactics of the era: ladders, battering rams, and early catapults. The contrast to modern defenses, with their steel and technology, is stark. Here, the strength lay in nature and human ingenuity, harnessed to create an impregnable stronghold. Step inside the castle grounds, and you'll feel the weight of its purpose. The outer walls, often 10 to 20 feet thick, were built from local stone, quarried by laborers and hauled by oxen. These walls weren't smooth. They were punctuated with battlements, crenellated tops where archers could stand, protected by the higher merlons while firing through the lower crenels. The height, sometimes 30 feet or more, made scaling difficult, while the rough texture deterred climbers. Imagine standing at the base, looking up at a wall that seems to touch the clouds. its shadow stretching across the moat below, a moat that, in many castles, was filled with water diverted from nearby streams, adding a liquid barrier to the stone. The gateway was the castle's weakest point, yet also its most defended. A massive wooden drawbridge, reinforced with iron, could be raised to seal the entrance, its chains rattling as it lifted. Beyond it lay a portcullis, a heavy iron grate that dropped into place, its spikes gleaming ominously. Guards patrolled this choke point, their eyes scanning the horizon for dust clouds or glinting steel. The design forced attackers into a narrow kill zone, where arrows and boiling oil could rain down from above. This wasn't just architecture, it was a psychological weapon designed to intimidate before the first blow was struck. As you move deeper, the castle's inner workings reveal more layers of defense. The keep, the central tower, served as the last refuge, its thick walls and small windows making it nearly impregnable. Stairs were often spiral, turning clockwise to favor right-handed defenders, swinging swords against invaders climbing upward. Storehouses held grain and salted meat, ensuring the castle could withstand long sieges. The air inside is cool, the stone retaining a chill even in summer, a reminder of the constant readiness required. This journey through medieval defenses is just beginning. As we explore further, we'll delve into the traps, the people who manned these walls, and the sieges that tested their strength. For now, let the image of that drawbridge rising, the horn fading into silence, guide you into a restful calm, where the castle stands eternal against the night. As the drawbridge clanks shut, sealing the castle against the encroaching dusk, you feel a sense of security settle over you. The horns echo now a distant memory. Inside, the air grows thick with the scent of burning peat and the faint tang of iron from the guard's armor. The stone walls, cool to the touch, hum with the quiet energy of those who maintain this fortress, soldiers, servants, and the Lord's family, all united by the common goal of survival. This castle is more than a structure. It's a living entity, its defenses shaped by the hands and minds of those within. Let's wander deeper into its heart, exploring the ingenious traps and fortifications that turned these stone giants into impenetrable strongholds, their secrets unfolding like a lullaby to ease you into rest. The outer defenses were only the beginning. Beyond the walls and moat, castles employed a series of traps designed to confound and destroy invaders. Picture the approach to the gate, a seemingly clear path that hides a cunning pitfall. Some castles, like Chateau Gaillard in France, featured concealed ditches lined with sharpened stakes, covered with branches and earth to lure attackers into a deadly fall. The contrast to modern warfare, with its visible trenches and barbed wire, is striking. Here, deception was key, the landscape itself a weapon. Archers on the walls watched for these traps to spring, their bows taut, ready to rain arrows on any who survived the initial plunge. Another layer of defense was the murder hole, a grim name for a practical feature. Above the gatehouse, a narrow opening allowed defenders to drop stones, hot sand, or even boiling oil onto those below. Imagine the scene, an attacker battering the portcullis, only to hear the ominous creak above as a bucket tips, the sizzling liquid cascading down. The heat and screams would echo through the courtyard, a stark reminder of the castle's ruthlessness. This wasn't random cruelty. It was calculated, designed to break morale and force a retreat. The sand, in particular, was insidious, slipping into armor joints and causing unbearable burns. a tactic born from the scarcity of oil in some regions. The walls themselves held secrets. Machicolations, projecting platforms with floor openings extended from the battlements, allowing defenders to drop projectiles vertically onto those clinging to the base. Picture a knight scaling the wall with a ladder, only to be met with a cascade of rocks or logs, the thud reverberating through the stone. These features evolved over centuries, with castles like Dover in England adding multiple layers of machicolations to cover every angle. The realism of this defense contrasts with the romanticized tales of chivalry. Here, survival trumped honor. Inside, the keep offered its own protections. Narrow windows, called arrow slits or loopholes, were designed for archers to fire while remaining shielded. These slits were often angled, widening inside to give a broad field of view, but narrowing outside to limit return shots. Imagine peering through one, the cold stone framing your face, your arrow finding its mark as an enemy approaches the moat. The design was precise, tested during mock sieges to ensure every shot counted. In contrast to modern sniper nests, these were rudimentary but effective, relying on human skill rather than technology. Trap doors and hidden passages added another layer of intrigue. Some keeps, like those in Scotland's border castles, included trap doors leading to dungeons or escape tunnels. An invader breaching the gate might step onto a concealed panel, plunging into darkness below, where spikes or water awaited. These passages also served the defenders, allowing secret exits for scouts or supplies during prolonged sieges. The sound of footsteps echoing through these tunnels, the damp air brushing your skin, evokes a sense of hidden life within the stone. The castle's water supply was a critical defense. Many, like Bodiam Castle in England, featured wells or cisterns within the inner walls, protected from contamination or siege tactics like poisoning. Picture laborers hauling buckets from a deep well. The creak of the windlass a constant rhythm, ensuring the castle could hold out even if the moat was drained. In contrast to modern plumbing, this reliance on manual effort underscored the castle's self-sufficiency, a testament to medieval foresight. The people behind these defenses were as vital as the stone. Engineers, often monks or skilled craftsmen, designed the layouts, their knowledge passed down through guilds. Soldiers trained daily, their swords clashing in the courtyard, their shouts blending with the wind. Servants stockpiled food, barrels of salted fish, sacks of grain, while the Lord oversaw strategy from the keep's highest chamber. This community effort, unlike the solitary focus of modern defense systems, created a living fortress, its pulse felt in every crevice. As night falls, the castle settles into a watchful silence, the traps set, the walls vigilant. The fire in the great hall crackles softly, its warmth a contrast to the cold defenses outside. This exploration of traps and fortifications is just part of the story. As we move forward, we'll meet the guardians of these walls and witness the sieges that tested their strength, guiding you deeper into a restful calm. As the fire in the great hall dims to glowing embers, casting flickering shadows across the tapestries that line the walls, you sense the human heartbeat of the castle, the men and women who transformed cold stone into a living defense. Their voices, low and steady, blend with the wind outside, a chorus of vigilance that has guarded these halls for generations. These were not just soldiers, they were the soul of the fortress, their training and tactics as crucial as the walls themselves. Let's meet them now. From the archers perched high on the battlements to the engineers below, as we explore the daily rhythms and strategies that kept invaders at bay, their stories unfolding like a soft blanket of mist over the moat, drawing you deeper into tranquility. The garrison, typically 20 to 100 men depending on the castle's size, formed the core of defense. Knights, clad in chainmail that clinked softly with every movement, led the charge, their loyalty sworn to the Lord. But the real workhorses were the foot soldiers, crossbowmen and spearmen, recruited from local villages, their calloused hands familiar with both plow and weapon. In contrast to the glamorous image of mounted knights, these men were pragmatic, their lives a cycle of patrols, drills, and watchful waiting. Imagine a crossbowman on the wall, his weapon cranked back, the bolt ready, his eyes scanning the tree line for movement. The crossbow, a medieval innovation, could pierce armor at 200 yards, its slow reload balanced by devastating power. Training was relentless, even in peacetime. Mornings began with sword practice in the bailey, the clang of steel echoing off the walls, swordsmen practicing thrusts and parries under the watchful eye of a sergeant. Archers honed their aim with longbows, capable of loosing 10 arrows a minute, their strings humming like distant bees. This preparation wasn't abstract. It was born from the reality of sieges, where a single missed shot could spell doom. The contrast to modern military drills, with their simulations and tech, highlights the raw physicality here, bodies aching from hours of exertion, yet forged into a cohesive unit. Women played vital roles, too, often overlooked in tales of valor. The lady of the castle managed supplies, ensuring food rations held during blockades, her commands as sharp as any blade. Servants and villagers, sheltering within during threats, boiled water for defense or tended wounds, their hands steady despite the fear. Picture a maid hauling a cauldron to the battlements, the steam rising in the cold air, ready to pour through a murder hole. This communal effort turned the castle into a microcosm of society, where every role, from cook to knight, contributed to survival. Tactics evolved with the threats. Against ladders, defenders used forked poles to push them away, the wood splintering as they toppled. For battering rams, massive logs swung by ropes, hot pitch or Greek fire, a flammable mixture, was flung from above, igniting the attacker's cover. The castle's height gave a natural advantage, allowing gravity to aid the defense. In contrast to open-field battles, sieges were wars of attrition, where patience outlasted brute force. Defenders conserved arrows, firing only when sure, their discipline a shield as effective as stone. Psychological warfare was subtle but potent. Flags fluttering from towers signaled defiance, while taunts shouted from the walls eroded enemy morale. Some castles, like Harlech in Wales, used music, drums, and horns to mock besiegers, the rhythms carrying across the fields. This wasn't mere bravado. It reminded attackers of the castle's endurance, often leading to negotiated surrenders rather than costly assaults. The human element here shines, the fear in an invader's eyes as he hears laughter from above, contrasting his own hunger and exposure. Supplies were the lifeblood. Granaries held wheat and barley, cellars stocked with ale and wine, while livestock grazed in the bailey until needed. During sieges, rationing was strict, a pound of bread and a quart of ale per day, supplemented by salted meat or fish. Wells provided water, their depths echoing with the splash of buckets. This foresight allowed castles like Chateau de Coucy to hold for months, starving out the besiegers instead. In contrast to modern logistics, everything was manual. The creak of carts and the sweat of laborers, a constant undercurrent. The Lord's strategy room, high in the keep, was where plans were hatched. Maps scratched on parchment detailed the terrain, scouts reporting enemy movements through hidden posterns. Alliances were forged via ravens or riders, calling for relief forces. This command center, lit by tallow candles, buzzed with quiet tension. Decisions made in whispers that could save or doom the fortress. As the moon rises over the battlements, the garrison settles into night watches, their lanterns dotting the walls like stars. The human defenses, woven into the stone, have held firm. This glimpse into the Guardians' lives is a bridge to the trials ahead. As we continue, we'll witness the sieges that tested these fortifications, their echoes guiding you toward a serene slumber. As the moon climbs higher, bathing the battlements in silvery light, the castle's guardians retire to their posts, the night air carrying whispers of past sieges that tested these walls to their limits. The embers in the hall fade, their warmth a fleeting comfort against the chill of history's tales. Sieges were the ultimate trial, where the castle's defenses met the full fury of an invading force, turning months into a grinding contest of wills. Let's relive these moments now, from the initial encirclement to the desperate countermeasures. As we walk through famous sieges and the strategies that decided their fates, the stories weaving a tapestry of endurance that guides you toward a gentle repose. A siege began with encirclement, the enemy army surrounding the castle to cut off supplies and reinforcements. Tents sprouted like mushrooms in the fields, their campfires dotting the landscape, the smoke a constant reminder of the threat. The invaders, often numbering in the thousands, set up siege engines, trebuchets and mangonels, massive wooden contraptions creaking under tension as they hurled stones at the walls. Imagine the thud of a boulder striking stone, the vibration rumbling through the ground, dust cascading from the battlements. These machines, powered by counterweights or twisted ropes, could launch projectiles over 300 yards, their arcs graceful yet deadly. Defenders responded with their own artillery. From the walls, ballistae, giant crossbows, fired massive bolts, splintering enemy engines or skewering soldiers. Catapults inside the bailey lobbed back stones or even dead animals to spread disease. The contrast to modern artillery, with its precision and range, underscores the medieval focus on endurance. A siege could last from weeks to years, as at Kenilworth Castle in 1266, where the garrison held for 6 months against King Henry III's forces. Mining was an insidious tactic. Attackers dug tunnels beneath the walls, propping them with timber, then set fires to collapse the supports, bringing sections tumbling down. Defenders countered with countermines, listening for the scrape of shovels through water-filled pots placed on the ground. Picture a miner in the dark, sweat beading on his brow, the flame of his lantern flickering as he digs toward the enemy. Clashes underground were brutal, hand-to-hand in cramped spaces, the air thick with dust and fear. Successful countermining, like at Dover in 1216, preserved the walls, forcing invaders to retreat. Assaults on the gate were fierce. Battering rams, protected by wheeled sheds called sows, hammered at the doors, their rhythmic thuds echoing like a heartbeat. Defenders poured boiling water or sand through murder holes, the screams below piercing the din. If the ram breached, a portcullis might drop, trapping attackers in a kill zone where arrows and spears rained down. The human cost was high, bodies piled at the gate, a grim barrier in itself. In contrast to cinematic charges, real assaults were methodical, attackers advancing under cover of shields or mantlets, portable wooden barriers. Trebuchets targeted weak points, their stones chipping away at corners or towers. Defenders repaired breaches at night, hauling stones and mortar under cover of darkness, their lanterns dim to avoid drawing fire. Hoardings, temporary wooden galleries extended from the walls, allowing more defenders to fight. These structures, nailed to the stone, provided cover for dropping missiles, their creaks a constant undercurrent during repairs. Disease and starvation were silent weapons. Besiegers blocked supply lines, hoping to starve the garrison. Inside, rations dwindled, bread turned moldy, water rationed to sips. Yet, castles like Carcassonne in France had gardens and livestock extending their hold. Psychological strain mounted. Deserters slipped out under night's cover, but loyalists endured. Their resolve a defense stronger than stone. Relief forces could turn the tide. A messenger escaping through a postern gate might summon allies, leading to a counterattack. At the Siege of Orleans in 1429, Joan of Arc's arrival lifted the English blockade, her banner a symbol of hope. The contrast to isolated modern sieges highlights the importance of feudal alliances, where a lord's call could summon knights from afar. Famous sieges illustrate these dynamics. The Siege of Rochester in 1215 saw King John's forces mine the keep, collapsing a tower, yet the garrison held the remaining half for weeks. At Acre in 1191, during the Crusades, Saladin's army bombarded the walls, but the defenders' crossbows and Greek fire repelled assaults until reinforcements arrived. These tales, filled with human drama, show castles as more than fortresses. They were stages for heroism and hardship. As dawn breaks over the besieged walls, the siege's echoes fade, the castle standing resilient. This dive into siege warfare bridges to the evolution of these defenses. As we press on, we'll trace how castles adapted over time, their changes lulling you into a deeper calm. As dawn's first light creeps over the horizon, piercing the mist that clings to the castle's walls like a shroud, the fortress awakens to a new day, its defenses standing as they have for centuries, yet forever changed by the march of time. The embers stir with a gentle pop, the air carrying the fresh scent of dew-kissed grass beyond the moat. Castles did not remain static. They evolved, adapting to new threats and technologies, their forms shifting from simple mounds to complex masterpieces of military architecture. Let's trace this transformation now, from the early motte and bailey designs to the grand concentric fortresses, exploring how innovation and necessity reshaped these stone guardians, their history unfolding like a slow river, carving through the landscape, easing you into a state of serene reflection. The origins of medieval castles trace back to the chaos following the Roman Empire's collapse, when Viking raids and internal feuds demanded quick fortifications. The motte and bailey, introduced by the Normans in the 10th century, was a simple yet effective design. A wooden tower atop a raised earth mound, the motte, surrounded by a fenced enclosure, the bailey, for living quarters and livestock. A ditch encircled it all, often dry but formidable. Imagine scrambling up the steep motte during an alarm, the earth soft underfoot, the wooden palisade offering hasty protection. These early castles, like Berkhamsted in England, could be built in weeks by forced labor, their speed a contrast to the years required for stone structures. Yet, wood burned easily. vulnerable to fire arrows or sabotage, prompting the shift to stone as resources allowed. By the 12th century, stone keeps dominated, their massive walls resisting flames and rams. The square keep, like the Tower of London's White Tower, featured thick bases up to 15 feet, tapering upward for stability. Small windows minimized weak points, while basements stored supplies. This evolution reflected lessons from sieges. After wooden structures failed, lords invested in masons, their chisels echoing as they shaped local limestone or sandstone. The contrast to earlier designs was profound. Stone offered permanence, a psychological edge that deterred casual raids. The Crusades accelerated innovation, as knights returning from the Holy Land brought Byzantine and Islamic ideas. Rounded towers replaced square ones, deflecting projectiles better, stones glancing off curves rather than cracking corners. Castles like Creak de Chevalier in Syria, captured by Crusaders, showcased this, its sloping talus bases repelling miners and rams. Back in Europe, Edward the Ferns of England applied these in Welsh castles like Caernarfon, with polygonal towers offering overlapping fields of fire. Picture archers in these towers, their arrows crossing paths to cover every approach. The design a web of death for invaders. Concentric castles marked the pinnacle of adaptation. Pioneered in the late 12th century, they featured multiple rings of walls, the inner higher than the outer, allowing defenders to shoot over allies. Beaumaris Castle in Wales exemplifies this. Its moat fed by the sea, surrounding low outer walls, then taller inner ones with gatehouses like fortresses themselves. Gatehouses evolved too, with twin towers flanking the entrance, barbicans extending outward as advanced defenses. These kill zones funneled attackers into narrow passages, exposed to fire from all sides. The human ingenuity here shines. Engineers like James of St. George, Edward's master builder, incorporated drawbridges that retracted into the gatehouse, their mechanisms oiled for swift action. Moats deepened and widened, some lined with stakes or stocked with fish for food. Bridges became death traps, with sections that could be removed or collapsed. Postern gates, small rear exits, allowed sorties, surprise attacks on besiegers' camps. These adaptations countered escalating threats. Gunpowder's arrival in the 14th century brought cannons, their booms shaking the ground. Castles responded with thicker, lower walls and earthworks to absorb impacts, as at Bodiam, where the moat doubled as a cannon barrier. Internal changes focused on sustainability. Great halls became multifunctional, serving as dining areas and command centers, their high ceilings echoing with strategy discussions. Chapels provided spiritual solace, priests blessing weapons before battle. Dungeons held prisoners, sometimes for ransom, their damp cells a deterrent to treason. The evolution extended to living quarters, solar rooms for the lord's family, warmed by fireplaces, offered comfort amid austerity. In contrast to early cramped mottes, later castles included gardens and orchards within the walls, ensuring fresh produce during sieges. Regional variations added flavor. Scottish tower houses, like Glamis, were tall and narrow, suited to rugged terrain, while French chateaux like Pierrefonds blended defense with luxury, foreshadowing the Renaissance shift from fortress to palace. This adaptation wasn't uniform. Poorer lords maintained basic keeps, while kings built networks, like the Iron Ring in Wales, controlling entire regions. As the sun climbs, illuminating the castle's evolved form. its towers casting long shadows. The story of adaptation draws to a close. These changes, driven by war's harsh lessons, ensured survival. As we near the end, we'll reflect on the castle's legacy, the peace it brought, and how its defenses echo in our world today, lulling you into final repose. As the sun reaches its zenith, warming the stone walls that have borne witness to centuries of conflict, the castle basks in a momentary peace, its towers casting shorter shadows across the bailey, where life resumes its quiet rhythm. Chickens peck at the ground, servants haul water from the well, and a blacksmith's hammer rings softly in the distance. This tranquility, hard-won through evolution and endurance, speaks to the castle's enduring legacy, a symbol of medieval power that influenced warfare, society, and even the landscapes they dominated. As we conclude our journey, let's reflect on this legacy, from the castle's role in feudal life to their decline and modern echoes, weaving a final thread of history that carries you into a profound, restful calm. The legacy of medieval castles extends far beyond defense. They were the pillars of feudalism, enforcing the social order that defined the era. Lords built them not just for protection, but to control territory, their imposing presence reminding vassals and peasants of authority. From these strongholds, justice was dispensed in great halls, taxes collected, and alliances forged. Picture a lord holding court, his voice echoing off vaulted ceilings, petitioners kneeling on rush-strewn floors. This centralization of power stabilized regions fractured by invasions, fostering trade and agriculture under the castle's watchful eye. In contrast to the nomadic warlords of earlier times, castles anchored communities, their walls enclosing villages that grew into towns. Culturally, castles inspired legends and art. Tales of Arthur's Camelot or the Grail quests romanticized them, blending fact with myth. Illuminated manuscripts depicted sieges with vivid inks, knights in gleaming armor charging under banners. This imagery influenced literature, from Chaucer's tales to Malory's Morte d'Arthur, where castles symbolized chivalry and peril. The Gothic revival in the 19th century echoed this, with neo-medieval architecture like Neuschwanstein drawing from their grandeur. Today, they fuel fantasy genres, from Tolkien's fortresses to Game of Thrones' Winterfell. Their defensive designs inspiring fictional worlds militarily, castles' innovations shaped future warfare. The concentric design influenced Renaissance star forts, with angled bastions countering cannons, gun ports in later castles, small openings for firearms, bridged medieval to early modern defenses. The emphasis on height and visibility evolved into watchtowers and radar in contemporary strategy. Even urban planning owes a debt. Moats inspired modern barriers like anti-vehicle ditches, while hidden passages echo secret bunkers. The contrast to today's drone warfare highlights how castles taught the value of static defense, a lesson applied in fortifications like the Maginot Line. The decline of castles began in the 15th century, as gunpowder revolutionized sieges. Cannons, like those used by the Ottomans at Constantinople in 1453, breached walls that once seemed invincible, their thunderous blasts shattering stone. Lords adapted briefly, adding earthworks and lower profiles, but the rise of national armies and centralized monarchies made private fortresses obsolete. Many were slighted, deliberately damaged during civil wars, like England's during the 1640s. Their towers toppled to prevent reuse. By the Renaissance, castles transitioned to palaces. defenses giving way to aesthetics, as at Versailles. Yet their legacy endures in preservation. Sites like Windsor Castle, still occupied by royalty, blend history with modernity, their walls hosting ceremonies amid tourist footsteps. Archaeological digs reveal forgotten details, arrow slits widened for guns, moats filled with artifacts. Conservation efforts, like those at Mont Saint-Michel, protect against erosion, ensuring these monuments survive. This stewardship contrasts the destruction of war. Now, castles educate, drawing visitors to walk battlements and ponder the past. Socially, castles reflect gender and class dynamics. While knights defended, women like Eleanor of Aquitaine managed sieges, their commands from the keep as vital as any sword. Peasants labored to build them, their sweat embedding in the mortar, yet reaping protection in return. This hierarchy, rigid as the walls, influenced modern concepts of governance and security. Environmentally, castles altered landscapes. Moats diverted rivers. Walls scarred hillsides, but many integrated with nature, built on crags for natural defense, like Edinburgh Castle on its volcanic rock. Today, they're biodiversity havens, ruins overgrown with ivy hosting birds and bats. This harmony contrasts early deforestation for timber, showing how human ingenuity can coexist with the wild. In our world, castles' defenses echo in metaphors. We speak of fortress mentality or impenetrable walls in psychology and business. Cybersecurity draws parallels, with firewalls mimicking battlements, hackers like miners tunneling beneath. The strategic patience of sieges informs negotiations, where attrition wins over force. As the sun dips, the castle's silhouette softens against the sky, its legacy a bridge from medieval grit to modern wonder. These fortresses, born of fear, became symbols of resilience, their stories a soothing reminder that even in turmoil, ingenuity prevails. Let this final reflection carry you into sleep. The castle standing eternal in your dreams. Good night, and may the quiet strength of these ancient walls cradle your rest.